Look at any major city on Earth today. We have covered the planet in sprawling concrete and steel, engineering the environment to fit our exact needs. Our population numbers in the billions, and our technological infrastructure is so advanced that we regularly send machines and people completely out of the atmosphere. But if you roll the clock back 50,000 years, the picture looks completely different. We were not alone. The Earth was shared by several distinct species of humans, all living at the exact same time. Some looked a lot like us, while others were built for landscapes that would break a modern person. Today, out of all those distinct variations of humanity that walked the Earth, Homo sapiens are the only ones left, which raises a question with a very messy answer. What actually happened to everyone else? The standard assumption is that modern humans are still here because we were the smartest, the strongest, or the most highly evolved version of the human animal. But when we look at the physical traits and the sheer timelines of our extinct cousins, that explanation starts to fray. Being human has looked many different ways, and many of those versions were, in their own ways, better equipped for this planet than we are. This chart compares the lifespan of Homo erectus against our own. They were here for nearly 2 million years. Every city we've built, every language spoken, and every war fought fits into a timeline so small it barely registers. They were the first human species to have long legs and shorter arms, a frame designed for walking and running across open ground. This physical adaptation allowed them to leave Africa and successfully migrate into environments they'd never evolved for. Their technological success was equally impressive. They developed stone tools that worked so well they barely modified the design for hundreds of thousands of years. There was simply no pressure to improve on what already worked. Yet, by their final chapter, their last populations found themselves completely cut off. They were isolated on the island of Java. The forests they relied on for hunting began shrinking, the animals became harder to find, and they had no way to reach new territory. A 2-million-year track record and reliable technology cannot save a population that completely runs out of livable space. Once geographically trapped and the environment shifted, a species that had outlasted everything the planet threw at them simply ran out of options. Then there are the Neanderthals, frequently written off as dim, brutish cavemen. The archaeological evidence proves otherwise. They controlled fire, crafted sophisticated tools, and there is growing evidence that they buried their dead with care. They were built for survival in ways that are hard to overstate. They had wide chests, thick bones, and heavy brow ridges that warmed cold air before it reached their lungs. Their brains were, on average, slightly larger than our own. For over 300,000 years, they thrived across Europe and Western Asia. But around 45,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began moving into the same regions, creating direct competition for the exact same land and animal resources. This diagram maps a significant difference in social structure. Neanderthals lived in small, isolated groups. When the climate swung between freezing and warming, these scattered pockets had no one to lean on, making it incredibly difficult to share resources or recover. High intelligence and individual strength cannot save a species if their social structure is too fractured to withstand constant environmental change and new competition. The Denisovans were masters of landscapes where we struggle to survive. Their DNA carried a specific gene called EPAS1, which allowed them to thrive on the oxygen-thin Tibetan Plateau, an environment that leaves a modern human body gasping for air. On the Indonesian island of Flores, intense isolation pushed evolution in unusual directions. Homo floresensis stood only a meter tall, hunting dwarf elephants while living alongside massive predators like giant storks and Komodo dragons. Both species mastered some of the most hostile environments on the planet, but those specific specializations came with a cost. Their populations remained thin and scattered. When a sweeping environmental shift rapidly dries up a landscape or alters the local food chain, the rules of survival change. Adapting to a specific extreme environment is a remarkable feat, but it can also become a dangerous trap. If the climate shifts suddenly, a small, scattered population doesn't have the numbers or the flexibility to pivot. So, if erectus had the longevity, Neanderthals had the brawn, and Denisovans had the extreme adaptation, what did Homo sapiens actually possess that allowed us to outlast all of them? The archaeological record shows a massive expansion of social scale. Homo sapiens built networks. We shared tools and knowledge across vast distances, moving information between communities like no other species. This network functioned as an evolutionary insurance policy. If one community faced a disaster, their knowledge had already traveled, giving the wider group flexibility to reorganize. We also have to acknowledge the role of sheer luck. Having the right population size in the right geographic locations when the climate shifted was largely a matter of chance. Our extinct cousins were not inferior prototypes or stepping stones on the way to us. They were successful ways of being human that thrived for hundreds of thousands of years. For most of our history, we were just one small branch on a diverse human tree. We are the only ones left because our connected networks caught us when the world shifted.